So I don't know if y'all have actually heard about this. Mike Gravel, Bernie Sanders, Tulsi Gabbard. I'm just, I'm kidding. I know all of you. Literally everybody at this point has heard about it. Literally everybody. But it appears that we have finally gotten an answer for Mike Gravel's endorsement. Um, and it looks like he's dual endorsing Tulsi and Bernie. I kind of understand where the confusion initially started because actually he actually endorsed Tulsi Gabbard here live on my show. That was kind of threw everybody off. I'm not gonna lie. We were like, oh shit, for real, like that. I was like, are you sure? Like, yeah, I'm gonna go on the debate stage and endorse her too. So it's pretty dope. And then of course he's acting as a surrogate for Tulsi as well. But also he endorsed Bernie, and but at some point the teens had led the public, the general public, and the media to believe that Warren at some point was a factor, which was a little problematic. But it appears that he has decided to dual endorse. Now, today, I want to actually talk a little bit more about the letter that he sent to Tulsi and why it's so significant, um, and how it can help us kind of clear up a little bit of what took place when we're trying to discern exactly what happened between the teens, Mike Gravel, what he wanted, what everybody took it as, and what ultimately it seems to be. So this letter is from Mike Gravel. The significance of this letter is that this is actually Mike Gravel's seal on this letter. And it says Mike Gravel, United States Senator, 1969 to 1981. The letter says, I am pleased to officially announce that Tulsi Gabbard has has my endorsement for President of the United States in 2020. The Congresswoman is the most qualified and prepared candidate to serve as Commander in Chief, which I believe is the most important responsibility of the President. Um, as a veteran, as a veteran of two Middle East deployments, a major in the Army National Guard, and a four-term Congresswoman who has served on Foreign Affairs and Armed Services committees, Tulsi Gabbard has demonstrated the patriotism, courage, and guts required to lead our country through these troubled times. She's proven that she will take on the establishment from Kamala Harris to Hillary Clinton, from big pharma to big tech. It is this soldier spirit that our country needs right now, as leaders from both parties bring us close to the brink of nuclear war. I have great faith that Tulsi Gabbard will pursue diplomacy and end the decades of failed U.S. foreign policy. I believe Tulsi is the only candidate with the experience, conviction, and motivation to get us out of costly regime change wars and end the new Cold War and nuclear arms race. Congresswoman Gabbard is the only candidate that can unify our country and defeat Trump in 2020. I, I encourage everyone who, like me, wants to bring about a future with peace, prosperity, and justice for all to donate to Tulsi Gabbard's campaign. And he links Tulsi's campaign. Um, I guess before I go into it, what do you think about that letter? Because it seems to be a little bit different. It rattled people a little bit yesterday when that letter came out. What was your take on it?
I think it was the perfect letter of endorsement. I think he laid out exactly why he supports her, why he thinks that she's superior to someone like Bernie, and also focusing on the importance of the role of the president as commander in chief. You can't just focus on domestic policy. You have to be focused and be aware of foreign policy. So I think that letter was pretty. Um, I don't know. It really showed that she's always been the candidate that he most aligns with. And
Mm,
yeah, because when he endorsed Bernie, the video, he was like, "Oh, he's the one." He talked about socialism. He talked about the 1%, and it's just like I have never heard Mike Gravel say these words. Maybe he obviously shares those opinions, but that's not his priority. His priority was always foreign policy. So to me, it was just obvious that he would have to endorse someone like Tulsi, or else it would just not make sense.
so
I don't know.
why do you think he decided to dual endorse um, or was it his decision? What do you
I don't
think?
think it was his decision. I mean, when he first announced his campaign, I think it might have been February. I don't know. I'm
It's
not
around
100%
February,
sure. Yeah.
February, March.
He initially said, "I'm going to be endorsing Bernie," but I think as time went on, he
Nah,
went more
initially he said
Tulsi.
Tulsi, because I interviewed him
Well,
like 2 weeks
when
after he announced.
really okay, because I
Yeah,
remember watching on the Humanist Report, he was saying specifically how Mike Gravel was planning on endorsing Bernie. But then
yeah, I don't
I
know
think,
where he got that from. Honestly,
yeah,
I like, but
yeah, I
you
might
know
be
how
wrong.
that goes.
Yeah, I might be wrong, but
Oh, did you know that Medicare for All doesn't have private health care? Just kidding. Go ahead.
don't even start me.
uh, but
No, but I mean, it was
go
just
ahead.
when and to me, honestly, when he was doing that video, it just did not seem genuine. Whenever Mike talks, it's very genuine. It's very, you can tell that he's saying it from his heart. But when he was saying when he was talking for the Bernie endorsement, it didn't sound like him, and it sounded like it was very scripted, and that the teens, I'm assuming, told him what to say, but it didn't sound like he wanted to be doing that. It sounded like they cornered him and put him in an awkward situation.
Hmm.
And I
That's
mean, I get it because they revived his campaign. They were the ones that revived it from 2008, but that doesn't mean that they can control who he's going to endorse. So to me,
yeah.
he had consistently been saying, "Listen, they're both good candidates, but I do see Tulsi as being superior to Bernie, and I do see her as being best fit to be commander in chief. And I would like to see a Gabbard Sanders ticket rather than
Yeah.
Sanders Gabbard ticket."
So
So
that's
yeah,
actually those are some interesting observations. Because I did read on Twitter a few times that people, because I watched the video, but I don't think I watched it that critically at first. Definitely not as critically as you did and some other people. They were like, it looks somewhat scripted.
yeah,
And I was like, what do you mean? And then I thought about, I'm like, oh wow, this actually does look kind of scripted. Um,
yeah,
I do think that he does like Bernie. I do think that
yeah.
he
Right.
has a great amount of
I'm not saying.
respect for Bernie. I
Mhm.
do think that, but I do think that there might be an element of maybe potentially feeling cornered. Um, and I think it speaks to a bigger issue. And I'm gonna explain why in a second. But I want to talk about a few things that stood out to me in this letter. Um, Obviously, he said he's pleased to announce whatever. But there was a letter that came out that was emailed about Bernie, right?
Mhm.
And it didn't have the signature. And I actually talked about that on Twitter. I said, I do know just from talking to a couple of the teens that, he does mostly prefer Tulsi. And he doesn't, I mean, he doesn't really run his campaign most of the time. And the letter that was sent out that was written as if it was Mike, um, until the very, very end of it, that when I endorsed Tulsi, it didn't have Mike's signature on it, but yet they were speaking as if they were Mike. And then this letter was obviously written by Mike, um,
Mhm.
and
It
it
sounds
has
like him. It
literally
sounds exactly like what
senatorial,
he's been saying.
yeah, it has a senatorial seal on it. And when he says the congresswoman is the most qualified and prepared candidate to serve as commander in chief, which I believe is the most important responsibility of the president. Um,
You
so
can't. Yeah,
like it's
you
kind of hard
can't
to leave that up to
extrapolate
interpretation.
that to suggest that it's fine. It's Bernie.
Yeah,
He
and even if
obviously shows a preference.
yeah, and even if you um even if you maybe thought that there was some conjecture there, or maybe he was being hyperbolic or was kind of ambiguous, he literally says at the very last paragraph, I think Tulsi is the only candidate with the experience, conviction, and motivation to get us out of costly regime change wars, uh, and is the only candidate that can unify our country and defeat Donald Trump in 2020. Only is
It's
pretty
pretty specific.
specific.
Yeah.
Pretty
Yeah.
specific.
And
Now,
he obviously also mentioned the threat of nuclear catastrophe too, which is something that he had actually brought up in his
mhm,
2008 campaign. He specifically had brought that up, and from my knowledge, I don't think Bernie ever talked about it. And if
no,
he ever
not the
has
new
discussed
Cold
it,
War. Unfortunately, no.
Not in those words, but at least suggesting, hey, there's this
Nah,
threat of
because
nuclear catastrophe.
one of Bernie's weaknesses over the last 3 years has been Russiagate, and he
Mhm.
would have to honestly, he would have to admit that he's contributed to Russiagate in that regard,
Yeah.
or to the to the new Cold War in that regard. I mean,
Yeah.
it's hard. They're complaining about Trump basically overcorrecting because they've smeared him so harshly about
Mhm.
Russia. And Trump is literally the pulling out of the nuclear arms deals and all this stuff. It's an overcorrection because they keep saying he's a Putin puppet. Like, and
Right.
so he's just, he's overreacting. And
And then
so,
he pulls out of the INF.
yeah. So
That wasn't
this,
really.
so it's interesting because so background information. It's clear the teens were trying to, like, out of nowhere, didn't happen the entire election. Next thing you know, they're tweeting about Warren, like from Gravel's account. But like, and the account is liking smears about Tulsi. And I can say for 100% fact, Tulsi has been nothing but awesome to Mike Gravel and the campaign. Um, Tulsi, not the second debate, but the first debate, actually got David Oakes and Henry tickets to that debate. And like I said, they got pictures together and everything. And so it was a little weird to me to see what was happening. And then I kind of realized, oh, snap, it's a bunch of ambitious teenagers. So I was informed that there is a little bit of dysfunction and that I was told in advance that basically some of these words that you're going to see are not Mike's words. I'm just going to put it like that. That's what they told me. And I took it for what it was. I know what that means. I've organized before, so I know what that means.
Yeah.
Um, and I do know, of course, that he endorsed Tulsi on this show, but I think this actually kind of
Mhm.
runs deeper than Tulsi and Bernie right now. And here's why I say that. Because it's like you just brought up. It seems like he was cornered into endorsing Bernie. Not saying once again, maybe he would have still been a surrogate. He says he's going to be a surrogate for both. But basically, there's been this pattern that is undeniable. As much as people want to love Bernie, you can't. This isn't a Bernie thing. This is some of his supporters. If he would have been, nobody covered it when he endorsed Tulsi. He endorsed Tulsi in February. Like I said, I did he did it on my show. Um, it was discussed. It was talked about. These people are educated enough and on Twitter enough to know that he endorsed Tulsi, but pretending like it wasn't a big deal. Now the teens, ambitious, as they should be within reason, uh, thinking about their futures as the campaign is coming to an end. They're like, well, what if we don't get jobs on Bernie's campaign? What if we get penalized for not endorsing Tulsi, or excuse me, not endorsing Bernie?
Sure.
Like it went from, okay, Mike Gravel is making the decision on who he wants to endorse to, oh, we're going to do a team endorsement.
Yeah, that's not.
But why? Like, I don't have a problem with dual endorsements per se, but what it honestly is looking like is that people are being bullied into supporting both. And that's not really okay, in my opinion. I support both freely, right? So it's not the same thing as some people who genuinely like Tulsi better and genuinely like they don't attack Bernie, but they're just like, hey, Tulsi's a better candidate in my opinion. And they should be more than free to feel that way. And the facts should
Mhm.
be able to speak for themselves. But that's
Mhm.
not been the case. It's been, well, if you don't like Bernie, is Tulsi going to win? Did she have? She said 2%, 3%. I got bad news for people. That's a really bad argument considering Elizabeth Warren is outpolling Bernie right now. And then
Mhm.
at the same time, at this same point, the last election, Bernie was doing just as bad, or just as just as quote unquote badly as Tulsi is in the poll. So if you're just using it as confirmation bias because it suits your argument, then you're setting yourself up for defeat because that's the same argument they used against Bernie. Well, you saw Hillary was beating him in the polls the entire time, but was she really though? But was she really? No, she was not. So I think this speaks to a different issue. Um, the fact that there had to be damn near a war over this to the point where people were pretending as if Bernie was the only person that Mike Gravel uh, endorsed when they know for a damn fact that that wasn't the case. They knew about all the issues surrounding the various endorsements, and yet they went ahead and tried to pretend as if Mike Gravel had exclusively endorsed Bernie anyway. Once again, putting people in that, like, it's basically starting a fight between two quote unquote factions that aren't even really factions. They shouldn't be factions, but it ends up starting a fight unnecessarily, in my opinion. When you could have just said from the beginning, or you could have been, I know it's crazy nowadays, but you can be patient still as a journalist. I know that people don't think that. They think they got to be first, but you can still be patient as a journalist and get the story right. And it does more justice to the progressive movement overall if you do that. Because if we're being 100%, like, for example, Cornel West exclusively endorsed Bernie. Did Cornel West get attacked for that by Tulsi people? No, we love Cornel West. Cornel West is a damn genius. Killer mind. Is anybody mad at Nina Turner for endorsement? No. If you like him and you think he's the best candidate, that's fine. I can't think of one person I've attacked for endorsing Bernie. I can. The moment that I endorsed Tulsi, I was immediately attacked,
Right.
which was the weirdest thing ever. I was not expecting that. But what's going to end up happening, in my humble opinion, is that if it doesn't stop, then people are going to find out what I mean by the Trump effect. Because remember how many people supported Trump, but were scared to talk about it because basically at that point the left and the right would shame them for it. Oh, Trump's a moron, Trump's an idiot, he's a racist. So the left and the right would shame them about supporting Trump. So they just wouldn't say anything. And then, they sit at the polls. Y'all don't know what I'm about to do. Y'all don't know what I'm doing. I'm voting for Trump. Who you voting for? Oh, of course, Hillary, man. Yeah, definitely. Hillary Clinton, for sure. Hillary all the way. 7 more years of war. Definitely. Yeah, fuck that, Trump. Like, that's what people were doing. Like, otherwise, I mean, polls were off, but they were off by a whole different type of, like, even Fox News polls were off. So, like, that lets you know how many people felt like that. Because when you're listening to somebody, there's actually, and I wish I could remember the psychological term for it. But basically, even when you're on the phone with somebody, if you can hear them and you feel like you can hear judgment in their voice for who you're voting for, you won't respond correctly. And I wish I can remember what the hell the damn term was. But yeah, that's what I think is going to end up happening. And it's sad. If Mike Gravel wanted to exclusively endorse Tulsi, it's fine. If he wanted a dual endorsement, genuinely, it's also fine. It would have been, it would have been, and still is, a great display of unity. Go ahead.
My criticism though would be the teens on their Twitter account are making it seem like it's actually not a dual endorsement, like it's just a single endorsement of Bernie.
Constantly.
Because again, over and over again, and then
even today,
right? And when someone replies to it, that's when they might say, "Oh, well, he endorsed both of them. We sent a video to the Tulsi team, and they can do whatever they want with it." But even though, like, I get it, Bernie's team asked you for the video, right? But why couldn't they just send over the video? Why did they need to specifically post it on their Twitter and then not post the one for Tulsi? It just didn't make any sense.
Oh yeah, we sent over one to Tulsi too, which I've not gotten confirmation about that, by the way, because Tulsi had to use the clip from Primo Nutmeg. So I don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah,
I don't. When they got the letter, everybody involved in the Tulsi campaign and press got it. So, like, when they got the letter, everybody knew about it, but they supposedly got a video from Mike.
Right. Yeah, Mike said that he took a video with
I believe he did.
Yeah.
But does that mean they sent it? Because this managed to get to everybody.
Because she had to use, like, Primo Nutmegs rather than, because what happened was that the Bernie team had taken the video for Gravel because Bernie's campaign asked him for it. So then the Gravel team, they had him then sit down and talk about Tulsi and then get that video from them. So then they could send it to the Tulsi campaign.
But that's what I'm saying. Did he do the video and send it? Because everybody got this letter.
Right.
But nobody, her press guy, nobody connected in the top tier campaign. Nobody's gotten a video. Nobody's sent like that, or else I know Abe well enough to know that he would have posted it or immediately. So instead, they had to edit the video of Primo Nutmeg. So once again, were some of the Gravel teams lying? And I want people to
Yeah, and
understand the reason they're doing this underhandedly and behind their back is because all the teams don't agree with what's going on. Two or three
right.
of them are, I mean, just they're pissed about what's going on. David Oakes reached out to me specifically to tell me like how pissed he was about how the Daily Beast screwed up everything he said. They mixed his words up to make it seem like he doesn't like Tulsi, to make it seem like Tulsi was going to
Right.
drop
He
out. He said
doesn't.
he
Yeah.
never said that. To make it seem like Bernie was going to exclusively endorse Tulsi, even though he and I even talked about when we were at the debates together. He, I, and Henry, and I believe Michael Tracy was there. We actually
Mhm.
talked about how it was crazy how quick he came out and endorsed Tulsi, um, and just how good the rapport was between those two and Mike and Tulsi's campaign. So like
Right.
this was something, and that's why I hadn't spoken about it almost the entire time. Like I don't think I spoke about it until it finally, like, okay, then Primo Nutmeg came out and broke the news, and so like it was a dual endorsement, but like
Yeah. And and the other thing is that they sent out an email today, this morning, and
another
it was like, yeah, they were like, okay, Gravel's doing an endorsement, and then they kind of were they specified it, and they said that he's doing one endorsement, and it's Bernie Sanders. You can watch the
yeah,
video that's linked to the email. So it's like, okay, you guys are telling me that this is a dual endorsement. Why didn't you include that in the email that he endorsed
neither
both
one
of
of
them?
them,
Why?
neither one
What
of
do
the
you
emails.
mean?
Neither one of the emails they made it seem like it
Oh
was an
yeah,
endorsement of Bernie in both.
specific.
And
Yeah,
matter of fact, directly after the other post went viral with Mike's signature on it, the other letter went viral. All of a sudden, they sent out another letter, and then his communications girl Katie was like,
yeah.
"Oh, what? I didn't know anything about a dual endorsement. So how you on the comms team and you didn't know what your candidate's planning on doing?" I don't know
I
everything
think.
Tulsa's doing, but big stuff like
Yeah.
generally, if you're and she's you know what I'm saying, like she's on the campaign.
Hmm.
If it's anything that is like the press needs to deal with, the comms, because that's what's going to happen, right? With an endorsement, the press is going to have to deal with it. So the comms should
Right.
be privy to what's going on. And she's like, "Oh, I didn't know." Bullshit, you didn't know.
I don't. Yeah, I don't buy that because the whole time it just seemed like they were unhappy with Mike's decision to endorse Tulsi, even though he has his own right to endorse whoever. It was his campaign. It was in his name. He should be able to make that endorsement for himself. There's no group endorsement when he's specifically been saying, "I'm going to drop out and endorse Tulsi."
Hmm.
That's what he said. He wasn't saying, "Okay, I'm going to drop out and endorse Tulsi as president, Bernie as vice president, or either one for president." He specifically set out the reasons too why he was going to endorse Tulsi over Bernie, why he thinks that she's superior to him.
Yeah,
So
and it's
it just seems like they
people
were
can be.
unhappy, and they, yeah.
Yeah, but like I said, it speaks to this culture, and it's not Bernie. It's a lot of his supporters
Hmm.
who pretend as if they're acting in good faith, pretending as if they support democracy, pretending as if they want unity, but they only want unity if you demand the exact same thing they want, which is unquestioned loyalty to Bernie, or actually it doesn't even have to
Right.
be Bernie,
They're
whatever candidate they want, or what, and you have to hate
right.
on top of that whatever candidate they hate. It isn't just you have to like who they like, but you also have to hate who they hate.
Hmm.
So, um, but it's I'm glad that the situation is mostly cleared up. I'm really glad he don't hopefully have to deal with the rest of the teams anymore. Uh, I know that Primo Nutmeg in that interview they said that Gravel's meeting with David and Henry, and they're going to actually work on divvying up the funds to different causes. Bernie's campaign, Tulsi's campaign, independent media, even, which is dope, right?
Democracy Now.
Democracy Now, yeah. Some to Flint as well. Like
Institute.
they're gonna be doing a lot of different things, and that's dope. And I'm glad that he's only having David and Henry there because once again, I don't really trust anybody. I
Security.
can't trust any of the
Yeah.
other one. So,
Right.
but I can say I do want to be clear. It's not all the teams. It is definitely
Hmm.
not Henry. It's definitely not David.
Yeah,
David, like I said, reached
people
out to
seem
me.
to think that it's all of them, but it's this the reason why is because of the two teams that do like Tulsi and that would
There's
have respected his own decision.
There was corruption in
and then
Bernie's
the rest
campaign in
don't.
2016. It wasn't the entire campaign, right? And it's
Mm,
not okay for anybody to speak as if, oh, all the teens have let us down or all the teens are, did it. No,
right.
it's not like it's politics and organizing. It's not a monolith. Like that's not how things
Mm,
work. There are people who go rogue. It's unfortunately the progressive movement. 50% of the people that go into the movement keep their integrity by the end of it, and that's just it's sad, but it's true. Um, money is tantalizing, opportunity and ambition is tantalizing, and it happens. But don't don't group the whole team, you know. So with that being
yeah.
said,
And also don't
uh,
and don't blame Mike either. I saw a lot of people that were
exactly,
pissed at Mike. It's not his fault. It's not his fault.
yeah.
So,
Mike is 89 years old. He's not chilling on Twitter, bruh. I'm telling you, he's not.
yeah.
Got better stuff to do. Maybe not. He does actually. He's retired. I'm not. When I'm retired, I'm not getting on Twitter. Bye. I already don't like y'all as it is. Jesus Christ. Follow me on Twitter at Niko CSFB. But anyway, but Mike, before we cut out, want to thank you for everything you've done. No matter what the result ended up being, you really I'm just extremely happy that you finally were able to receive the gratitude that you've deserved for everything that you've done for this country. As hard as you fought for this country with almost no recognition for it, you were definitely taken for granted, and it's got to be kind of, I know, ironic and funny and satisfying in a way that literally now the two most popular names of the progressive movement at the moment, or at least all their supporters are all fighting because your name it holds that much weight now.
Mm,
It may not, it may not influence people who are not political junkies, but the political junkies, when they're trying to decide who they're going to work for, who they're going to donate to, whose information, what posts they're going to share, all those things, it does make a difference. And they now everybody knows, if they didn't know before, how much so that Mike was the gold standard for decades,
right.
with from the Pentagon Papers to the opposition of the Vietnam War to constantly calling out the military-industrial complex to ending Joe Biden's 2008 run almost single-handedly.
Mm,
So, on behalf of myself and the rest of the progressive movement, Mike, thank you so much for everything you've done. Thank you, Henry. Thank you, David, and everybody else who participated in bringing Mike back into the forefront and allowing him to to feel that appreciation before, he ain't no spring chicken. He'll be moving on to the next world, and maybe hopefully not any less than 10 years. I want him here to see what his revolution has flourished into. But it's amazing to be able to say, like, man, I'm so glad that he was able to feel this appreciated before he left this earth. Once again, more proof that you do the right thing long enough, even when nobody's looking, eventually you will reap what you sow. So thanks for everybody. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Make sure that y'all go follow Sofia on Twitter if y'all haven't yet. And well, only if you're not scared to have your feelings hurt, apparently.
Apparently.
All right, people. Always remember, more than anything else, find your balance. Peace.
Hey, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification button to get all of our notifications if you like that episode of Mikasa Sukasa. You can also help continue to grow our show by donating to our Patreon and helping us hit our goal of 500 patrons. But remember, more than anything else, find your balance. Peace.